All right, what's going on, beautiful people? So today we have a special guest. Her name is Samantha St. Louis. She's an RN, a BN, CEO, and founder of BeBaby Sleep and Parenting Consultant. Okay, now this person, she knows what she's doing when it comes to kids. She actually consults people. She has a whole business on how to calm babies down and different strategies and tips on how to get more control of your a work life balance with raising a family and everything like that. So of course, you guys know I bring on here people of value, people from different categories, people of different business, to give you guys value. I like to bring them on here for the one reason that we do business with people we know, like, and trust, right? So that's the whole point of this podcast, of this show. So now I'll be bringing on Samantha St. Louis. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hi.
How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for coming on the show. I know we hadn't been talking the past couple of days, and like I told you, I know what you have is of value to people, because the reality is kids sometimes can get out of hand, right? And sometimes we don't know how to deal with it and things like that. So my first question that I always like to ask my guests is, well, how'd you get into the business?
Well, I am a mother myself. I have 4 kids. I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a soon to be 2-year-old, and a 4.5-month-old baby. So I am very much intimately aware of the challenges that parents go through. But it was actually when I was a registered nurse and I was completing further studies. I fell into epigenetics, which is basically the study of nurture versus nature, right? And obviously, when you're talking about that, you're talking about kids, you're talking about maternal health. And I decided to do a community project because I needed to do that in the course I was taking, and to center it on what type of services parents needed and what type of services were actually out there, and then compare that. And unfortunately, I realized there was little to no resources. The resources that were out there were incredibly hard to actually reach when you needed them. And it was always sort of like, a sleep consultant here, a breastfeeding consultant there, a parenting consultant there, your pediatrician here, the public health nurse saying something else. And overall, parents were able to get, different services if they really, really wanted to, but everybody was contradicting each other, and parents
Mhm.
were just more confused than they were to begin with. So none of this was very efficient. And if you look at sleep consultants, well, the vast majority of them are not healthcare professionals, neither, which
Wow.
can make a lot of people, uncomfortable because you're dealing with small babies. And so I saw a gap. And they
Mhm.
say if you want to build a really successful business, you find a gap and you serve it. And so that's how I ended up starting BeBaby.
That's so cool. I didn't even know you were a registered nurse.
I'm a registered nurse clinician.
Wow. Okay. What were some of the challenges that you saw in the space before that kind of triggered that light bulb?
Well, one of the first areas that I focused on was sleep education. Because if you go into mom groups, the most repetitive concern is somebody help me, my kid's not sleeping.
I know
And
that's that.
right. And so, and parents are becoming exhausted and they're becoming overwhelmed. And the issue is, I actually started looking at certifications, in sleep education. And I did a whole bunch of them along with,
Wow.
childbirth and whatnot. But none of them were enough because they were looking at just sleep. And the thing is, your baby's not a car, right? You can't just flip open the top, fix something in the motor, and there you go, you're good to go. Sleep is not just a question of sleep. It's complex and it interacts with nutrition, with development, with your overall health. I mean, who here has had a newborn with colics? you know that sleep strategies alone aren't going to make that kid
Exactly.
sleep, because unless the colics or the reflux or whatever are fixed. So the biggest challenge that I was able to see was the fact that in order for any of these services to work, breastfeeding or sleeping or whatever, they had to work in tandem. And nobody was bringing them together to actually get the results that people needed. And it was very, the services that were out there were very authoritarian. And so it was never centered on, the parents' way of parenting, what they're comfortable with, their style of parenting. It was always, this authority telling them what to do, but it wasn't centered on them. And nobody ever asked, mom or dad, okay, but how are you doing in all of this? And what can I do to help you on a personal level?
That's true. Now, what is the difference? Because there are books and things like that out there, right, on parenting and things like that. What are the difference from like some of those books to like somebody maybe working with you?
Well, I always say there's 3 C's to sleep training success, or breastfeeding success, or parenting strategies overall. The first one is customization. And the second one is certainty, and the third is consistency. And the fact is that if you're reading a book, it's generalized, advice. And we have blogs too, and we do seminars and all these things, which is general, advice and available for free to the public. And sometimes that works. But if your child does not fit in that perfect little box for which it was engineered, it's not going to work. And if you've had more than one kid, they are all massively different.
Yeah.
And so customization, when you're working one-on-one with one of our consultants, allows you to feel certain in what you are doing and knowing that you will get the results that you need. This will actually work. This will actually help your child, which allows you to then be consistent. So if you have general advice that you are not certain will actually help you, you will also not be consistent. And so overall, it doesn't tend to work very well.
Yeah. I mean, with my kids, for example, I've always tried different strategies and this and that, and nothing ever seems to work. That's true. I picked up a couple books.
Most
Okay.
parents do. By the time they find us, they have like a nice collection.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what would be like what's probably been one of your most successful, case studies or something like that that maybe you've worked with that you can kind of share with the audience?
So one of my consultants, because we actually have a Thrive program, which we train consultants to actually work for us. And Christy is one of our consultants. She graduated from the Thrive program, but she started as a Peace of Mind Parenting member because she came to us. She had a 17-month-old daughter. And this is not even the most complicated case. It's just like a good representation. She had a 17-month-old daughter and a 3-month-old son. And she had not slept in over 17 months. And by not sleeping, I mean her daughter was waking up 10 to 12 times a night. She had hired 2 sleep consultants. She had paid for about 3 courses online for sleep, taking care of babies and all that jazz. Read, various books and blogs, really had tried everything under the sun, thousands of dollars down the road, and nothing was working. Her daughter had a lot of health issues that were unresolved. Her immune system was crashing. Her kidneys were not working very well either. There was like a lot going on. And then she had a 3-month-old son who also was not a great sleeper. And so she was just like, at the end of the road. And it took me, I decided when she started working with me, you know what, we're going to transfer her to a toddler bed while we're at it, because I don't like to sleep educate twice. And she's about that age. So why don't we do it? And she thought, oh my God, you're insane. The only way I get any sleep whatsoever is the fact that she's contained, right, in a crib. And if you have a kid that doesn't sleep in a crib, you're not interested in a toddler bed. And it took me 4 days. And she was sleeping through the night in a toddler bed, and her 3-month-old was waking once per night for feed, which is developmentally, appropriate. And we resolved many of her health issues, including kidney reflux and her immune system problems that she had and so forth.
Now, Samantha, why do you think that the baby or the toddler gets to that point? Like, what is it?
It's a variety of factors. So, I mean, one thing to keep into consideration is for some babies, sleep is, super easy. They transition through every phase like it's nothing. We call those, unicorn babies. But for some babies, every step is a challenge. And, first off, with a newborn, sometimes they don't sleep very well because there's just so much going on that's new. They're digesting food. They've never experienced cold before. The lights are too bright. Like there's just so much. And then you add colics and all of these various, issues that can affect babies. And they can start off on the right foot, on a wrong foot, or even if they start off on a great foot, the thing is kids have sleep regressions at 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 2.5 years old. So even though they might have been sleeping great at the very beginning, they hit a regression, which is usually associated with a developmental milestone like learning to walk or talk or something like that. And when you learn something new, you have to develop new neural pathways, and that happens in deep sleep. And so that disturbs sleep. So then, your kids start waking up, or maybe they don't want to go to sleep, or maybe their naps get really bad. They get overtired. The more overtired a child is, the more they fight sleep. The more they fight sleep, the more superficial their sleep, which means they're more overtired. And so you get into this negative loop, this cycle of overtiredness, as we call it. But on top of that is if your child is, 4 months and goes through the 4-month sleep regression, which is, a misnomer, it's not a regression, it's a permanent change in the way they sleep, and you don't resolve it, and then they hit the 6-month sleep regression and you don't resolve it, you end up with compounding sleep regressions and sleep disruptors. So a child who is, a so-so sleeper at 6 months can become an awful sleeper by the time they're 2.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I heard you say just now that you also help with like eating and like nutrition. Did I hear that right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm an advocate of that, right? So I mean, I'm a big believer in that, like my kids sometimes they do get out of hand. I can't even imagine if they weren't eating the proper nutrition, right?
hmm
So what are some tips that maybe you can give the audience that, obviously it's hard for people to just make a switch like that, as drastically as I probably did. But what are some tips that maybe they can start, implementing into the kids, daily habits of food?
I think one thing that's really basic, but a lot of families don't realize is important, is to actually have some sort of a routine or schedule around meal times. A set breakfast time, a set lunch time, a set dinner time, 2 snacks a day. One thing you can do right off the bat is negotiating with your kids to eat their meals so that they can have desserts. Desserts should not be an everyday thing. They should be, a once in a while thing, and it shouldn't be associated to eating your meal or not. It's just, it's an event. We decided to have dessert, fine. But that's a great way to eliminate some, unhealthy, sugars from your kid's diet. Another thing is a really easy trick is for snacks or breakfast, even when you're doing, muffins and that sort of thing, you can go online and find a variety of chocolate chip muffins or granola bars or what have you that are jam packed with healthy things that your kids will not even realize are in there. And then I always tell parents, when you're trying to make a meal, it's easy. A quarter of your plate should be proteins, a quarter of your plate should be carbs, and the rest of your plate, so half of it, should be vegetables. And I'm not talking about a salad drowned in vinaigrette or, vegetables drowned in cheese. I mean, just, plain old good vegetables. And if you just follow that rule to begin with, and you make sure that you're adding healthy snacks, and dessert is a once in a while thing, just that will make a massive difference in,
Yeah.
your health, your kids' health. And kids will not let themselves starve.
Oh, that's true.
So if you don't, if you're not the mom who's like, well, if you don't eat this, I'll make this. Or, no, what we serve is what we serve. This is what you have to eat. I'm not a, short order cook. I'm not going to make anything else. You're not going to get snacks after a meal because you didn't eat your meal and you're still hungry. I will give you back your plate so that you can finish it. I don't negotiate at the table. You eat, you don't. It's up to you. Eventually they're going to eat.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think that we should, I mean, I think I just heard you say it, but you don't think we should pressure our kids then into eating?
No, no. I think one thing to keep in mind is the fact that they didn't eat their dinner tonight is not going to affect, their overall health when they're 50.
Yeah.
But having a healthy relationship with food will. And oftentimes, if we're forcing, if we're negotiating, if we're putting a lot of pressure and stress around dinner time, first of all, it's not pleasant for you. It's not pleasant for them, and they will make negative associations with food.
Mhm.
And once they move out of your house, there's a good chance they're going to have some really unhealthy eating habits to try and compensate for, this sense of control over meal times.
Yeah. Sometimes my 2-year-old will try to be like, no. I'm like, okay, no worries. Just give me the cup of blueberries and I'll put it on the counter. And then she'll be like, okay, give me.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Now, my kids, for example, they like to eat all day. And that's my problem because it's like, as a business owner, as somebody who's growing his business, I work from home. I don't take my kids to daycare. So sometimes to kind of keep them, calm, I
Mhm.
just feed them all day sometimes, right? Because they just want to eat all day. But obviously, it's fruits and vegetables and things like that. So you don't, we don't seem overweight, right? But we really eat pounds and pounds of food every single day. How can I stop that?
Well, so I work from home too. And obviously, with kids, sometimes, especially when you're working from home, they know, and they will take advantage of the fact that you're working from home and you need them to be quiet. And so they'll come at you for a
You
snack.
think they would know?
Oh, yeah, they know.
Oh
They know
man,
100%. That once I sit down in my office, they're like, Mommy, snack.
I know, right?
And one thing that I've done is for lunch, for example, I'll make like a picnic style lunch. And so I'll have this container and we'll have, a source of protein in there. We'll have, naan bread. We'll have all kinds of veggies in there, and maybe fruits and like a few other, things. But I'll take basically a meal and I'll make a picnic out of it, but in a container that I can stick back in the fridge. And so once it's lunchtime, because that's usually when it starts, right? I take this out, they have lunch with it, great. They eat all the fruit right away, they eat all the stuff they prefer right away, and then I put it away. So half an hour later, if they ask me for a snack, I take that container out of my fridge again. And so what's left? Vegetables, right? And so they'll eat a few vegetables and then I'll put it away. And if they ask me again, that's what they're getting again. So first of all, they're not going to ask me as often because they're like, well, I already ate all the crackers that were in that container. I'm not
That's
interested
true.
in this anymore. And second of all, if they do ask and they eat it, eating a few extra sticks of carrots is not going to ruin their dinner time, right? And
Mhm.
even if they eat less at dinner, I don't care because they ate super healthy stuff, because I control how much of the, fruits and various things that are in there. So I know that no matter what, they had a very balanced diet that day.
For sure. Now, what kind of services do you offer exactly? And I guess a better question would be, what problems, and I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what problems do you really help solve?
Well, one of the big things, people come to us, particularly mothers, I guess, um, but fathers as well, who are involved in the sleeping process.
Yeah.
Usually, What happens is a parent who is absolutely exhausted because their children are not sleeping, sometimes overwhelmed by their daily life, like the cooking and the cleaning and the management of all that and the work life
I
family.
delegate the cleaning, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. But, and then, feeling sometimes an overall sense of, sometimes people come to us and they don't have sleep issues. The sleep issue is like the main thing people come to us for.
Yeah.
But sometimes they don't have sleep issues, but they're overwhelmed. They're generally dissatisfied with their parenting journey. They feel like they're winging it, and things are not going very well. Maybe their marriage has been affected. And the last version would be expecting. Parents who are expecting for the first time and want to be, super prepared and well supported, or it's their second or third kid and they know what's ahead of them and they want to have a different route this time that they can take. And so they come to us to get, unlimited one-on-one support, unlimited, DM support, weekly parenting courses. We have an app and a library with over 300 videos on health and parenting and finances and, absolutely everything that you could need to know, and a community too of like-minded parents. We have multiple healthcare professionals that are literally available to you in a small little Facebook group where, a physician will be tagged on your post and come answer it for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that convenience and that security that, the information you're getting is the right information.
Yeah. Now, my kids want to sleep with me. How do I break that?
So the way that we do things is we'll usually sit down with someone like yourself and we'll do a full sleep evaluation. So we'll, what are the ages of your kids? What is their nutrition like? Are they getting enough protein and enough this? How is their behavior during the day? Sort of get like this overall picture. And then from there, we'll develop, a sleep plan. Now, when it comes to toddlers and preschoolers and getting them, out of your bed, there usually needs to be some sort of a smooth transition because you can't go from having them in your bed full time to them being alone in a different room in their own beds, just like that. It's not going to work. So we have to find the disruptors. Are there fears? Are there anxieties? And deal with those in the sleep plan. And then the other thing is we, at that age, we co-work with them. So the plan that we create gives them a sense of independence, some choices within boundaries that no matter which choice they make, the result is the same. They're going to sleep in their own bed, right? And positive rewards for, following the rules, if you will. And then there are no negative consequences to not following the rules. There's just we put a system in place, for example, silent returns that we use where it's just not going to work. You can try and get out of your bed all you want. It's just not going to work. You're going to end back in your bed over and over again. And so at some point they're like, okay, well, this is nonsense, right? And you have to keep in mind at that age, they can turn anything into a game. So when you're trying to help toddlers and preschoolers sleep in their own beds, you've got to be careful that they're not twisting what you're trying to do and turn it into a game that they're the boss of.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you feel that you should ignore the tantrums, or is it something to where you got to kind of step down, get on your knees, and kind of get to their level?
How to deal with tantrums, we actually teach this inside of the program, and it varies by age. We generally don't advise the whole idea of ignoring completely tantrums, but it does depend on the age, the type of the tantrum, the source of the tantrum, and how bad, the tantrum is. But we have a step-by-step process per age. So for example, we use something called the quiet chair. Quiet chair is not, this chair facing the wall where you sit your kid and you wait until they're done screaming, sort of like when we were kids. It's a chair that's in a main living space where they can see the rest of the kids playing, and they're allowed to go on their own when they want to calm down, which we demonstrate, but we'll also bring them to this chair when they're losing their cool. And so what we're teaching them is you're totally allowed to have a breakdown of emotion, but you're going to go sit there and calm yourself and relax, because we don't want you throwing things or hitting people or whatever. And so generally, depending on the age, the process will be, to get them to calm down. Once they're calmed down, we have a conversation about their behavior, that is age appropriate. And then if they did something wrong, if they're really, really small, they'll go hug the person that they, harmed. Once they're a little bit older, they go say sorry and hug the person that they harmed. Once they're a little bit older than that, they say sorry for and explain what they did wrong to the person that they harmed. So we level it up where we don't want them to just learn how to control their emotions or live through their hard emotions, but also be able to eventually verbalize what they did that wasn't okay. Oh no, I think I lost you there. I think I'm the only one in the show and you've frozen out. Goodness gracious. So I'll see if you come back. Let me message you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like we have unstable connection. So I heard you, but pretty much from, the old school, the old heads are always saying, oh, take out the belt and things like that. And I always try to explain that, no, I want my kids to express themselves, right? Like, I'm sure most parents want their kids to have that ability to express themselves. It's just sometimes parents deal with, like, I'll be honest, sometimes, I'll be in the middle of Walmart or a shopping center and my kids want a toy. I say no, and it's a wrap. Both of them at the same time in the middle of the store are throwing their fit. They're letting the whole world know they're bothered, right? But I have noticed, though, that as they're getting older, it's like, okay, they start to understand and I can talk to them. And so it's almost like a process too, but it's good to have like that guidance. Like, I didn't really even know that your industry was an industry until I kind of met you, right?
Well, and one thing I tell parents when it comes to dealing with tantrums, what's most important is not stopping the behavior now. It's what type of adult are you trying to produce at the end result? So, is the intervention that you're doing now going to help that child become an amazing, husband or wife, down the line one day? And so always keep your mind on the end result. So even if, you're trying certain things and that it's good and it doesn't seem to, stop the tantrum as quickly as you'd like, always keep in mind that, it's the end result, that counts. And emotional cue cards are really great with toddlers and preschoolers to teach them about different emotions and teach them how to name their emotions as well. Just being able for them to say, I'm mad, will actually prevent quite a few tantrums because they have another way to verbalize it beyond throwing themselves on the ground. And they're still going to have tantrums every once in a while. And it shouldn't be like when we were kids, kids should be seen and not heard. It should be that, you're totally allowed to have your emotions.
Exactly.
But you're going to deal with it in an appropriate manner, which doesn't include, hitting the neighbor.
Exactly. What's the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
I want to say, well, first of all, as a business owner, one thing that stuck with me that a coach told me is when everybody's zigging, you zag.
You zag, yep.
And, our approach to that is, when it comes to pretty much everything these days, all business owners are trying to pre-record things, automate things, and basically remove the human interaction because the human interaction is expensive. in terms of, staffing and whatnot. And
Yeah.
for us, I think one of the pillars of our success is the fact that we've gone in a completely different direction, and we are very person to person, human to human interaction based.
Wow.
Even if you are not a paid customer of us, if you are in our Facebook group, BeBaby Family, every single person in that group has a free resource person, a real person attributed to them that is there to support them in the private messages and help them find resources for as long
Nice.
as they're in the group. So I think for us, when it comes to parents, you need the human touch is what's most important. We can't automate things.
For sure. Now, like in my business, for example, like when I'm hiring somebody, I make sure that I need to make sure that they have one drive and two that they're empathetic, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, we are dealing with people. What would you say that would be a one of the greatest personalities that somebody in your or one of the greatest traits that somebody in your industry or your field or even your own business needs to have when working with you?
A desire to never stop learning, because I mean, if I take the Thrive program, which people have to go through in order to become consultants, there's 150 base modules to be
Wow.
able to graduate as a consultant, including a lot of homework and tests in there. And
Wow.
beyond that, if you want to become a senior consultant, it requires a lot of extra training, continuing education that we do. And so you have to love learning. And, the easy cases for us, which are complicated cases for, most sleep consultants, are great. I mean, they're easy, fast, the results are instantaneous. It's awesome. But what I love is when we get a case that's like, ooh, okay, what are we going to do about this? I'm not too sure. And then we sit down
Yeah.
and we think and we come up with creative solutions. So you need to like, a challenge. You need to like going out to find more information and questioning yourself. If you're the type of person who wants your job to be like A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D,
Oh, I
A, B,
know.
C, D every single day, you're going to hate it because every day is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Now, do strategies change in your field?
Well, I would say that in terms of sleep education, there's like a baseline that for us has remained similar
Yeah.
from year to year, but we add more tips and tricks and modifications. I think for us, we're at the point where we include a lot of health conditions and how that interacts with sleep. When it comes to parenting, obviously, certain things change over time. We figure out new methods that work even better. In terms of childbirth, we're always adding more information as research comes out. Like there's new research that just came out about SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome, that might
Mhm.
be associated to a gene. And so
Mhm.
we're on the lookout for, eventually people being able to test that. I can every single day. I have a book out that I'm reading. I'm always trying to learn something new. So, like this week, I'm reading a book on actually slowing down the aging process of your mitochondria within your cells, and
Nice.
using that within our categories of women's health and
Nice.
father's health inside of our program.
Nice. Now, how do you deal with because it's easy to give somebody a plan, but I assume it's always hard, not always, but it's sometimes hard for a parent to follow. So how do you deal with those type of parents or those type of cases?
Well, first of all, when we do an evaluation, we first find out, what type of parents are they? What are they comfortable with? Do they have any fears or concerns about sleep education? And we will make a plan in accordance to that so that the parent is comfortable with, the speed of the process or the methods that we're utilizing. The
Mhm.
second thing is we don't just give you the plan. We sit down with you and we walk you through everything. So we explain the why. behind things, which makes people understand.
Exactly.
And then we talk to you every day to keep you on track and keep you accountable. And if you're not being consistent, we know for a fact. And one thing I tell parents that usually works is, look, it's 3 a.m. Your kid wakes up, you have to, sit beside the crib, for example, and shush them for a certain amount of time or whatnot. But you're so tired that you think, I'm just going to stick a boob in this kid and he's going to fall back asleep, or I'm going to give him the pacifier and he's going to fall back asleep. Every time you do that, you add 3 days to your sleep plan.
Wow.
And so usually when you tell parents that, they're like, ooh, okay, no, we're going all in.
That's new to me though. Like I thought that was the correct thing to do.
To give them the pacifier?
Yeah, or stick the boob in their mouth.
I mean, it depends on the age. Obviously, if you have a newborn waking up, you better give them the milk,
Yeah.
right? But with like an 18-month-old, if you or a 12-month-old or an 8-month-old,
That's true.
if you give them a bottle of milk every time they wake up, their brains are engineered to wake up for food. So guess what? Their brain's going to keep waking them up for food.
Oh man. Oh man. Okay. Okay, we're learning something here. All right. And at what time do you get your best work done?
Me?
Yeah.
Honestly, this is going to sound terrible. My best work gets done at 4 in the morning.
Hey, I love it. Same
I
here.
I have too many kids in my house, and if I get up at 4, everybody's sleeping. That's when I have a 4.5-month-old, so that's when around the time I'll breastfeed him. For
Yeah.
him to make it to morning. And so I'll wake up, I'll breastfeed him, I'll come downstairs, make my little coffee in peace and quiet, and I'll do my little morning routine, and I'll do my most creative work usually that I can't get disturbed for. And then at 7:15, everybody starts waking up. I'll have breakfast with them. I'll get showered and dressed, and I start my meetings at 9.
Nice. Nice. Now, do you really promote breastfeeding over formula?
So here's the thing: fed is best. Okay, whether you're formula feeding or breastfeeding. Obviously,
Exactly.
are there health advantages to breastfeeding? 100%. We're not gonna lie. It is better for their immune systems. There's no risk of overfeeding when you're breastfeeding as well, which is a risk with formula. The risk of intolerances or gastrointestinal problems related to breastfeeding are much smaller than with formula, because obviously formula can be harder to digest.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you can and if you want to breastfeed, it is ideal. But however, that being said, we have a ton of formulas on the market these days, ton of fantastic formulas, and they can be very, very healthy as well. So, if I have a parent who has this dysphoric milk ejection, for example, where literally a woman will get intense feelings of depression every time she breastfeeds, and it's physiological. And so breastfeeding is causing her more harm than good. And that baby is also getting a mommy who's depressed, which is not good. Then I'll say, let's switch to formula. I mean, let's not do this, right? And I've had dads, for example, who mom is not around and they're alone with babies. If we can, we'll try and get donor breast milk every once in a while. But otherwise, we just put them on a really good, really high quality formula as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now I want to talk about like your app. I mean, who the heck? Not everybody has like an app, right? And I know you touched on it. I know you touched on it a little bit. So when somebody like logs into your app, they contact you. What it's like laid out like modules and things like that, like for the average person to go through, or what exactly?
So everybody in our program has access to our app, and the same content that is in our app is also available when they log in on our website. And basically, it's a library. And it's divided by sections, and so there's like the welcome section with a few videos in order, and it tracks which videos you've watched and if where you
Wow.
are in your learning. And then it's divided, so we have foundations for parents, the cooking, the cleaning, the running, the errands, the making your schedule and all that stuff. We have pregnancy, childbirth, breastfeeding, sleep, development, overall health, exercise plans for parents. We have a cooking show as well in there. Emotional, psychological health, like really every category is organized. And we have a massive category of even mindset in there as well.
Wow. Now you touched on just now on a schedule. And I've heard it on both perspectives, right? Like some people say, "Oh, well, my child will go to sleep whenever I go to sleep, and if I'm out, I'm not gonna be. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. I got to go put them to bed." And then I've heard the other side, like me, for example, who I do want my kids sleeping, going to bed at 8 p.m. and to get proper night of sleep, and also kind of give me some peace at night, right? Where do you fall in? Like what with your expertise and your training and things like that? What do you think is in your opinion, okay?
I think that a schedule is important, but hear me
It's
out.
important, right? Yeah.
Oftentimes, you'll hear sleep consultants talking about schedules, and it sounds like a military, act where if your kid is not in bed at the minute that their nap time is scheduled, you have failed somehow. Okay. I believe a schedule is a blueprint and it is a tool. And the basic fact is children, especially toddlers and babies who don't have an ability to verbalize very much, it gives them some security. They know they'll have enough playtime. They know they'll have enough sleep time. They know they will get snacks and they know when it's coming. So that prevents tantrums to begin with. It prevents them from getting overtired and then you trying to do bedtime when your 2-year-old is trying to wrestle you like an alligator because you have missed the window of opportunity. And then the other thing is the fact that, we didn't have 4 kids by accident. We had 4 kids because we had a lot of alone time, which is valuable. So we have a bedtime. And I mean, every once in a while we'll deviate from movie night or that sort of thing. But most of the time they are in bed, by 7:30 in my house, because me and my husband like to have our us time, and I like to have my me time.
Nice. Now, what are 3 books you'd recommend? Before I go there, who's been like one of your mentors in the field that kind of help you get to where you're at?
In my field per se, I never had a mentor. I sort of like self-learned everything. In terms of business, I've had Kelly Roach was a business mentor of mine, and Kathleen Cameron has been a mindset mentor of mine for a while now as well. And they're both 8-figure business owners, women business owners.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, mindset is people don't understand, and it sounds so cliche because everybody talks about it, but
It's big.
man, it'll get you through the day. Like looking at everything from a different perspective. Instead of like, when I get the tantrums, I just laugh, right? Like, yeah, everybody look at me. Yes, my kid's doing it today. Party in the house, right?
I think we would have awesome play dates. We should organize a play date for our kids.
For real, like it's insane sometimes, but you got to embrace it. It's not about getting mad with the child. It's not about, it's really just embracing the process and knowing you're gonna make it through.
You shall survive.
Yeah. What's like one of your favorite childhood memories?
Oh my gosh. I didn't have a super childhood, to be honest. But I remember one day I want to say 6th grade. So I wasn't that young. I was in 6th grade. And my stepfather was in the military, so he was always gone. And we lived on a military base, and my mom worked I don't even know where she worked at that point, but she was never there. Basically, they came home at like 10:30 at night and I was already in bed. So I never actually saw them except for the weekends. And there was one day I remember I came home from school, but my mom was off work and she never cooked. And I walked into the house and there was this smell of spaghetti sauce because she was making spaghetti sauce. And my mom does not know how to cook, but she makes a mean spaghetti sauce. And I came in and the smell was just like so amazing. And my mom said, "Would you like me to run you a bath and you can go have a bath before dinner?" And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm in sixth grade. So I'm like 11 to 12 years old. And I had my nice warm bath, and then I had, the spaghetti and the smell in the house. And it's such a simple memory. And for me, my best memories was that and the Friday night meals where we were all there and we'd have, the simplest of meals, but we would sit at the table together and we would talk. And so for us, even though my kids are young, we do mealtime around the table, everybody together, and we sit down, especially for dinner time. And I bring them to the restaurant to teach them to sit down during a mealtime because I want us to, especially as they grow older, I want them to have that time with their family where they can talk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because growing up, we didn't have that. We didn't sit down at a table to eat. But all my other friends, not all, but a lot of my other friends, their families used to sit. And that was actually one thing that I enjoyed when I went to their houses, to my
Yeah.
friends' houses. Like, it was like, this is so beautiful. And I remember thinking, like, this is what I want, when I'm older, when I'm a dad and things like that. So, and those are little things that kind of stuck with me too. So that's so funny you said that.
It's
Now,
quality over quantity.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Well, we have some massive projects that we're working on this year. We actually did State of Affairs on Wednesday announcing it, and we want to bring a free childbirth postpartum care program nationwide.
Wow.
That's our big project
Wow.
that we'd like to
Did
do.
you say
Where
free?
free.
Wow.
We want to create a program and find a way to distribute it across hospitals and birthing centers where anybody who becomes pregnant or is adopting or becomes a parent in any other fashion would be able to, get a barcode and get instant access to that sort of version of the program on our app nationwide and have a resource person that they could connect with for further, one-on-one services if they need it. And the goal is a lot of the things that we treat, breastfeeding concerns, sorry, you have a lot of notifications, breastfeeding concerns and all that. Many of those things are preventable if parents have access to that information from day one. And so I always say I want to be remembered as the woman who changed the paradigm of parenthood and who taught the world that it does not have to be exhausting, it does not have to be overwhelming, and it does not have to mean that you have to lose yourself in the process.
Keynote.
You're gonna give me my TED talk, right?
TED talk, you just did it. You just killed it. Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Okay. And what's been your favorite job that you've held before you started your own business? What kind of jobs have you had in the
I've
past?
had such weird jobs. Okay, my first ever job, I worked in a bingo.
What?
I was
I
the
never heard
girl
that
who was running down the aisles with the microphone and,
Wow.
helping people play their bingo, I guess. That was kind of fun. I was 15 years old.
Wow.
I've had a few weird jobs after that. In college, I actually was a bank teller.
Wow, look at
Yeah.
you.
And my first nursing job was actually in the ICU, which is very odd. Usually you need 10 years of experience before doing the ICU. I learned a bunch in there and met
That was
some
probably
amazing
hard.
people. Very, very hard, but you learn a lot about human resilience in there. I have to say that. And I also had a night job at some point to make ends meet because y'all know nurses don't make good money.
Right.
And I was working in a rehab center actually,
Wow.
and met some awesome people there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot of lost talent in there sometimes when they can't recover and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, I met like I used to work call centers, and a lot of those call centers used to be like recovering, and they're beasts, they're killers.
Oh
Like they're
yeah,
very
they have
sharp.
a hunger.
Yeah, exactly. They're very sharp. So I definitely respect them. And you told a little bit about your morning routine. Tell me about the three most influential people in your life and how they have impacted you, or at least one. One is okay.
Mm. Goodness. I want to say, I mean, there's so many people that have influenced me, but I didn't know what mindset was until, like a year ago at all.
Wow.
I thought it
Wow.
was all this new age crap. And,
Exactly.
my version of mindset was like grit, how to achieve grit. It was
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
work ethic. And about, I don't know, last year at some point, our business was increasing, but it got stalled. And then I made an investment that massively exploded in my face. I was like, what the hell? I'm doing all
Wow.
the things, right?
Hmm.
And this girl was in the same coaching program as me. Her name is Kathleen Cameron. She's the manifestation queen. And I knew she was massively successful. She has an 8-figure business. She grew in 18 months, basically.
Wow.
So I sent her a message and I was like, what would you say about this particular circumstance? And she responded something ridiculous to me in the sense where, like, what is your truth? I was like, what do you mean, what my truth? She's like, don't tell me what's going on in your life. Tell me what you want. What would you love? And then she made me do like an exercise, and then she made me visualize it and manifest it. And I thought the whole thing was bull crap. But when things go wrong, you're like, what do I have to lose, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to do all these things. And I got like a massive change of result and how I felt within 12 hours. And I'm probably her biggest success story, to be honest, because it took like
Wow.
this. And the next day I messaged her and I was like, I don't know what type of voodoo magic you teach, but count me in. And so I ended up joining her program. We became super great friends. Um, I think mindset not only has helped my business substantially,
Hmm.
but it has helped me as a person so much. It has helped me cut out toxic relationships. It has helped me love me, so much more after, having kind of like a life where I was criticized a lot. And
Hmm.
that was a big, massive shift for me, I have to say. And then there's a ton of other speakers, and writers that
Yeah.
I listen to, and and Deborah Gatola is one of my good friends. She's actually a coach for Kathleen, and we became super close friends. Her husband actually works for me now, um,
Nice.
and
Nice.
she's been a great supporter, daily.
Yeah, I mean, people just don't realize that opening a book, hearing other perspectives, listening to podcasts like this or other things like that, like it will change your life. Like the person I was 5 years ago, completely different. All it took was, me just opening a book and getting a glimpse of somebody else's life. And I was like, wow, there's a possibility to something different, you
And I
know?
mean, I don't know you very personally, but one of
Hmm.
the things I told my husband when I met you the first time, or I spoke to you the first time, is like, this guy has a great mindset. It's like, how can you tell? It's like, you can tell when somebody has a really good mindset. You
I
can just tell.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah. And it just comes from, like looking at other perspectives, right? And it goes back to what you were saying. What I was going to say was, you can't focus on the bad. all the time. You got to be aware of it,
Mhm.
right? But look at the other side of it. Look at the other side and focus on that. Like when somebody told me one time, and I think you might know him too, if you keep focusing on the debt, you will get more debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where focus goes, energy flows is the saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school varied by grade. Like in sixth grade, I loved math because I had this super cool teacher who was teaching us math on computers. That was awesome.
Oh,
But I was actually really, really good in high school in literature.
yeah.
I was a great writer of
Nice.
short stories, and I loved doing a book dissection.
Nice.
A giant nerd.
Nice. And if you could have coffee with one historical figure, who would you choose?
Oh my god! Just oh. Okay, it would be what's his name? I have his book. The guy who wrote, man, I can't remember his name. The guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich.
Oh,
What? Why can't we?
Nightingale.
The initial one, yeah, Nightingale, and then the one who redid it was
Earl Nightingale.
I don't remember the other guy who redid it after, but he spent his life studying successful people and
Napoleon Hill. Napoleon
Napoleon
Hill.
Hill. There you go. I would love to sit down with Napoleon Hill, as weird as that sounds, just because I feel like he's had coffee with all of the amazing people.
Exactly.
So if I can only choose one, I'll have coffee with the guy who had coffee with all the amazing people.
Smart girl. And would you say you're an introvert or extrovert?
I'm definitely an extrovert.
An extrovert. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people think I'm an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm extra. Well, it depends. When I meet new people, I can be very, very shy. But once I get to know you, I don't shut up after.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And if you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
I am actually writing one.
What?
I have
You
a
got
book.
an app? You got a book?
I
We
got
need to talk.
a book
I need to
coming
figure this
along.
out.
Yeah, I have a childbirth book that is being written, and I have another book that is on our methodology. So we have the Peace of Mind Parenting Method, and so the method that we teach to make your parenting journey a beautiful one that takes you from surviving to thriving.
Wow, killing it, killing it. And if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Are there health implications to this meal?
Anything, anything. Down and dirty if you want.
So here's the thing. I mostly eat vegan, super healthy, but if I could only have one meal for the rest of my life, it would be filet mignon with a lobster tail and a fully stuffed baked potato and salad.
Hey, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
All right, and last question. What's one question you wish I'd asked you, and how would you have answered it?
My goodness. I don't think you missed one.
Okay, there you go.
Good.
Round of applause. Round of applause.
Well, that
So where can people find you, Samantha? You know, I know I put it in the description, things like that, but for people that are listening, where can people find you?
You can go straight up to bebaby.ca. There's a chat box in there to connect with someone on our team. Or if you prefer, you can go to BeBaby Family, which is our public free group on Facebook, and join, and you'll get a resource person attributed. We're always there and willing to help no matter the questions. We have a bunch of free events. We do a free event a week. So there's tons of free content for you to come grab.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. I know you're extremely busy, but I definitely do appreciate it, and I know all my audience is going to appreciate it as well. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much,
you for
Samantha.
having me on. It was a pleasure.
Definitely, definitely. Talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Bye.
Take care. All right, guys. So there you have it. Samantha St. Louis. She is a BeBaby sleep and baby consultant. She has a lot of knowledge. I've talked to her a couple times, and you can just tell that what she does, she loves, she enjoys, and it's something she's practicing herself. With 4 kids and things like that. So if you guys need help, with tantrums, with getting your baby to sleep, or whatever it is involving your child, reach out to her, and she could probably give you tips. Or you saw her on this podcast, talk to her, and get help, because the reality is you need a coach in everything. You know, I've actually learned over the years that when you get a coach, things happen a lot faster for you versus going through trials and errors, and maybe sometimes going through things that sometimes maybe you can't reverse, right? So go ahead, guys, reach out to her. And on the other note, if you guys need health insurance, if you guys need help, maybe you just want me to check your plan out, maybe you just want me to review your policy, or you just need something new, maybe you lost your job or something like that, reach out to me. I can help you out. Anything health insurance related, I'm the guy, I'm the expert. I get real creative with my clients when I have to. So guys, on to the next one, or till the next one. Love you all, and we'll talk on the next show. Take care.